All right, we are live. I first just want to say hello to all of you out there today. We are going to do it's a pronunciation lesson. It is more of a pronunciation Q&A, and I want to take some of your questions if you want to know how to pronounce different words or phrases or sentences. You can write that in the chat and you can just hear how I would pronounce it and I would say these words, phrases, or sentences. But before you start writing stuff in the chat, just yet, I do want to mention just one thing right off the top. I know that this coronavirus has taken the world by storm. It's pretty much everywhere right now. So I just want to say I hope that all of you guys out there are staying home, staying safe, staying healthy, and that I wish you guys all of the best. And again, just wish all of your countries all of the best, and hope you guys are able to stay healthy. So when it comes to pronunciation, I want to start out by talking about some resources that you can use. Just two of my favorite ones when I want to know how to pronounce a word. And again, I'm going to put this right here in the chat so you guys can see it. And the first one that I have is this one, dictionary.com. I think this is a great resource. I'm putting these links in the chat. So even if you're watching this later, please watch the chat because that's where I'm going to throw a lot of these links. Dictionary.com, you can find out the American pronunciation, the British pronunciation. It also tells you the phonetic spelling of a word as well as the IPA, the International Phonetic Alphabet. Another great resource, I think, is Cambridge Dictionary. Those are the two dictionaries that I like to use. Or you can just Google it. And if you Google the word like how to pronounce and then some word, it's going to come up in the search and it'll just be right there. And you can listen to the pronunciation. Google also will allow you to record yourself saying the word. So after you hear how it's pronounced, you can try to repeat it and then listen to that recording. And you can listen to the word and then the recording and see if they match up and see if you think your pronunciation is close. So again, this is an idea. It's kind of like practicing shadowing, and shadowing is a great way to practice your pronunciation, to improve your pronunciation. It's when you are basically saying the word or the phrase or the sentences just after you hear it, almost like you're saying it at the same time. And again, this is a great way to practice your pronunciation. Now, those are some great resources. And before we begin, I'm going to throw some words in there. I'm going to start with questions that I got from our Patreon community as well as our members. And that's also something I wanted to mention. We now on our YouTube channel, we do have memberships. If you want to check that out, there is a link in the description. Or if you want to join our Patreon community, you can do that as well. And there are some rewards that we offer, and I'll put a link to Patreon right here. But again, there's a link in the description. So I'm going to start with some of those questions from our patrons. But before again, I just want to say hello, give some shout outs to people. Devika, Rogerio, Arin, Khalil, Proud, Nikki, Samuel, Rohan, Eloisa, Angela, hello, Gibson, how are you guys? Zylek, Aiden, I saw you in there. Glad you guys are here. So I'm going to start with questions from our patrons and our membership community first. I'm just going to tell you, I got a list of words that they were asking about, and I'm going to give you the word as well as the phonetic spelling. And when I say phonetic spelling, it's almost like how you would I'm trying to think, you would spell the word the way that it's pronounced. It may look a little strange to some of you, but you get the idea. So the first word that someone asked about, I believe it was you, Aiden, is this one right here. I'm writing it in the chat, the word quarantine. So it has 3 syllables, and that the stress is going to be on that first syllable. That Q-U-A sounds like quar. Quarantine. It has that schwa. That second syllable has an sound. And if you don't know what the schwa sound is, it is an unstressed vowel sound. It is the most common sound in English, and often vowels will have that schwa, and it's that sound. Quarantine, quarantine. And again, if it helps you guys, practice saying these words as I say it, repeat it, say it out loud. It's all about getting some practice. Quarantine, quarantine. Another word that I had was this one, agnostic. I'm throwing it again in here in the chat. It has 3 syllables. The stress is on that second syllable. Agnostic, agnostic. And I think when you hear this word, maybe you make sure that you're stressing that second syllable. Agnostic, agnostic. You can hear that I'm stressing it when I say it. Agnostic. Then we have this word, unwittingly. Unwittingly. Again, I will take questions from you guys who are with me in just a moment, and you guys can write words, phrases, sentences, and I will repeat them. I'm going through some of the words from our patrons and our members first. So unwittingly, this is an adverb. It's going to have, unwittingly, 4 syllables, all right? And if you're wondering, well, how a syllable is a unit of sound. And if you're wondering, well, how do you know how many syllables a word has? One great way to do that is to put your hand underneath your mouth. Say the word. And for how many times your chin touches your hand, that's like 1 syllable. Unwittingly. All right? That would have 4 syllables. Unwittingly. Unwittingly is the word, the stress is going to be on that wit. Unwittingly. Unwittingly. The other thing is that I would say with this word is, because I'm from the United States, Americans tend to pronounce that flap T. Often when the T, you have a T sound in the middle of a word, the flap T sounds like a D, a very soft D. So if you hear me saying unwittingly, you're not really going to hear that T much. It's going to sound like a light D sound, unwittingly. Same with the word, if I were to say this word right here, water. And I would pronounce it, it's going to sound like a little bit like a D sound, water, water. Okay, so let's see. Wait, why is this not going through? Okay. The next word that I have for you is this one right here. Wait a second. Why? Okay, I'm going to have to go over here because I popped out the chat and now the words weren't popping up. This word. Okay, plutocracy. So plutocracy, again, it has 4 syllables. And the stress is on that talk, that second syllable, plutocracy. And if you're wondering what a plutocracy is, it's a form of government. It's really a government by the wealthy, by rich people, by the wealthy. That would be what it is when people refer to a plutocracy. Another word that I think people often have trouble with this word pronunciation-wise is this one, aisle. All right, it's 1 syllable, aisle. Aisle. That S is it's a silent letter. You're not going to hear it. Aisle. All right. Another word that we have is this one, candidacy. So this is a word, it's a word because there's a political election in the United States. If you follow that at all, you might hear this word, candidacy. Candidacy. The stress is on that first syllable, candidacy. That third syllable has that schwa, that duh, candidacy, candidacy. Again, if it helps, practice saying these words, say them out loud, repeat them after me. I'm going to pop out the chat again, so it makes it a little easier for me to move around. The next word that somebody has is this one. It's a very common word, but I think it can be challenging because it's a long word, but only 2 syllables. Mountain, mountain. Now, you could say the pronunciation mountain, the mountain, but often I think when people say this in a sentence, like I'll say it, we're going to go hiking up the mountain. It's almost like you're really reducing that second part to mountain, 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 mountain. So I think quite often when you're just, having a conversation, oh, that's a big mountain. Let's go hiking up the mountain. Did you did you climb this mountain this last weekend? Mountain, mountain. So it's mount N, and you're just following it you're just going right into that N sound. Mountain, mountain, mountain. The next word somebody asked about was gnarled. Gnarled. And gnarled just means like you're chewing something, but again, this has a silent letter, that silent G at the beginning. Gnarled. Gnarled. That ED is going to have a D sound, gnarled, because the gnarled is voiced. So it's going to sound like that L. Gnarled. Then we have another word, which again, I think is because of the spelling, a silent letter, castle. Castle. That T, there is no T. It is a silent T. Castle. So I'm putting that phonetic spelling. I think by now that I've added that, hopefully that makes a little more sense. The phonetic spelling is spelling the word the way it sounds, because with some of these silent letters, you're not gonna. It can be a little confusing. And then the last word that I want to go for from our patrons is this word. And our members, horizon. Has 3 syllables, and the stress is on that second syllable. Again, this is when syllable stress, it does become important. Horizon. Horizon. That you can hear the emphasis on that second syllable. Horizon. That first syllable has that schwa, that huh, that horizon. Horizon. All right. And you see the horizon is talking about like kind of the end, like the sun sets on the horizon. All right. There are maybe there are mountains behind you, and then the sun is setting on the horizon. All right. So those are words that from our patron community, from our members, I wanted to go over those first. So right now, if you guys have some words, phrases, or even sentences, if there is a sentence that you would like me to say, write that in the chat right now, and I'll go through and I'll try to answer as many as I can. And again, I'm going to try to write them, give you the phonetic spelling, which means it's going to take me a little more time. So somebody, Jose, I saw you asked about comfortable. All right. This is another word that I think it can be really challenging. All right. So I'm writing it right there. Comfortable, 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 comfortable. All right. So again, it's that comfortable, comfortable. All right. I think the reason why this is challenging is because again, it kind of gets shortened. Sometimes you might not even hear that R. Comfortable. Oh, are you comfortable right now? How's this seat? Is this seat comfortable? I think you do, when I say it, you do hear a little bit of that R sound. Comfortable, comfortable. But I think that's a great word because it's a great adjective. I think it's a very common word. Comfortable, comfortable. Let's see. Saeed, would you pronounce wouldn't have and shouldn't have? I'd have wouldn't have. So I think one reason when you say wouldn't have, I'll use it in a sentence, and I'd say this sentence. If I knew, so I'd say you shouldn't have bought the gift. All right. So if I say, oh, you shouldn't have bought the gift. You shouldn't have bought the gift. That have almost sounds like it gets reduced to like an of. And you could think of it like an OF, like of, or OV in phonetic spelling. Shouldn't have, shouldn't have. All right. Wouldn't have. Same with wouldn't have, wouldn't have. So if I were just saying this naturally, you shouldn't have bought the gift, I'd say, oh, you shouldn't have bought the gift. You shouldn't have bought the gift. You shouldn't have bought the gift. So again, if it helps, practice, say them out loud, repeat them after me. Shouldn't have, wouldn't have. Shouldn't have. You shouldn't have bought the gift. Oh, if you had called, if if you had told me that you had bought the gift, I wouldn't have ordered one. So again, this is reductions. I think they are very common. They can be a bit tricky. Abdul Wahid is talking about hoarding. All right, hoarding. So again, this is another word, I think, with the coronavirus. People hoarding, what it means is people are just collecting a lot of items, basically collecting too much. So I'll write it right there in the chat with the phonetic spelling, hoarding. Hoarding, all right? Hoarding. So that is a word that I think if you're watching the news, especially in English, you might hear this word and people talk about. Many people are trying. They are hoarding supplies. They're keeping a lot of supplies. Heloisa is asking about hostile and hostile. Yes, I say as far as I don't know in British, if you're talking about they are sometimes I think sometimes people might pronounce it hostile. They are hostile. So in I think again, hostel is a place where you'd stay. Let me put those down just so you get the phonetic spelling. So a hostel is a place that you'd stay. The pronunciation, I just say hostel. Let me throw down the phonetic spelling. Hostel. Here we go. Hostel. All right. Again, it's like mountain. You're moving in from mountain right into just that N. Hostel. It's the same way. You're moving right in to that TL. Hostel. Now, you wanted to compare that with this next one. Hostile, I think in American English, I think it is pretty common. Like I would say, pronounce it the same way. That I would say hostile. Like, wow, they're being very hostile right now. It's a way of somebody's behaving, somebody's acting. They're acting hostile. I think also people in America might say hostile, which I think is what they would say in British English. And in that case, you are going to hear that long I sound in that second syllable, hostile, hostile. In the United States, they might say both hostile or hostile, but in British English, you would hear hostile. Wellington asked about the word development. So the word development, again, the stress is going to be, it has 4 syllables. The stress is on that second syllable, development. And again, I'll put these in the chat. So if you're watching this later, please utilize the chat because I'm writing all these words in there. The stress is going to be on that second syllable, development, development. And that third syllable has that schwa, that development, development, development. Abubakar Aiden. All right, thank you for the question. The difference between debt and date. So the difference is really that the vowel sound that you find in these two words. So debt is going to have that short E sound, and it's going to sound like this, debt. All right, you go into debt where you are losing money, and you could say some business might go into debt. People can go into debt if they spend more money than they make. Date, which is going to have the long A sound, is going to be, well, let's do it. This is the phonetic spelling, date, they put for it. So debt versus date. Again, short E versus the long A sound. Let's see. Couple, Ali. All right. Disciplinary. Disciplinary. Let me get the phonetic spelling for you. So disciplinary, again, this is an adjective, means like you're kind of trying to enforce some rules or laws. The stress is on that first syllable, disciplinary, disciplinary. Again, that second syllable has that schwa, disciplinary. Say it with me, disciplinary. Mary asks, Mary asks the difference between while and a while. So again, the only difference would be that extra syllable in front of a while. So while, again, very useful word, very common word. Let me get the phonetic spelling for you. I'd say while, there is a silent H in there. You're not going to pronounce that H sound. While, a while, you're going to have that schwa in front of the word. A while. So you're saying that the pronunciation is very similar. It's the same. You're just adding that extra syllable, that while versus a while. Here is a while. So you can see how that's spelled. That schwag is at the beginning. And I'll say it again because the sound is so common, it's so popular that it is an unstressed vowel sound. The schwa sound is an unstressed vowel sound, and it just sounds like a while. The next word, Muslim English asked me about entertainment. Entertainment. It's a longer word. Again, I think it's a pretty common word because people might ask you like, hey, what do you do for entertainment? What do you do for entertainment? I think when I say it quickly, you can see the phonetic spelling, entertainment. But again, if I were to say it quickly, I almost like entertainment. I almost reduce it to entertainment. So I might ask you, just say it quickly, what do you do for entertainment? And you might not hear that second syllable very well, that ter. So again, I'm trying to show you like, well, what I would say if I'm having a natural conversation, but also if you were to pronounce the word individually, entertainment. And I think it is good to pronounce it completely entertainment, but I would tend to reduce that entertainment. Let's see. Could you please, Heidi is asking, could you please tell me how to pronounce crow? So again, it's that vowel sound. Crew has that, it's just more like an ooh sound. Crew. Let me write it there for you. Again, practice saying it with me. Crew, like you're talking about maybe a group of people. Your crew, a work crew. Crew, which is different from the bird that's going to have that long O sound. Crow. Crew versus crow. Let me write it for you. Boom. Okay. Crow. All right. So try pronouncing German and English. No, I think German, Vicky, I think German is it's the pronunciation is very hard for me, but I will try to pronounce that. Gehörner Schutterung is what I would say. Gehörner Schutterung. I'm sure my German pronunciation is not very good. Let's see. Morgiana asked about wrist and wrist. Those are homonyms, all right? Because wrist with a W, it is a silent W, so the pronunciation is going to be the same. Wait a second. No. Oh, I'm sorry. Those are two different words. Risk and wrist. So they could be confused, but the final letter is going to be different. Risk, all right? You can hear when I say, you can hear that K at the end. Risk. And the phonetic spelling is going to be just exactly like you say the word. Risk. You should see that, hear that K. Risk. Now, if I were to say wrist, you should be able to hear that T at the end. Wrist. Risk, wrist. All right? But there is a silent W in wrist, which is why some people might get this a little confused. There is a silent W. Risk, wrist. All right, next one. Ahmad, I'm trying to pick some different ones. Uncle and ankle. So uncle, let me get the phonetic spelling for you if it makes it a little easier, has two syllables. The stress is going to be on that first syllable. Uncle, uncle, uncle. All right, like your relative, your uncle, uncle. And ankle, the difference would be uncle, the stress is on that first syllable. Ankle, the stress is also going to be on that first syllable, but it's a different vowel sound. That versus ang. Uncle, ankle. Uncle, ankle. And I told you guys that I think one of the best ways to practice is just listening, get more exposure to the language, and then repeating. And shadowing, again, is a great way to do that. If you listen to somebody, you're listening to me saying these words, and I would encourage you to say the words out loud, repeat them after me, so that, again, you can try to mimic my pronunciation when you're trying to improve your pronunciation and say these words. So Lolly asked between ball and bowl. I can't see really well that next one. Ball, bowl. So again, in that case, let's see, ball, like a bouncy ball, it's really the difference in pronunciation. Ball is going to have that short A sound, ball. And it almost has like you're going to hear that W in there as well, ball. And bowl is that long O, bowl. I think that other word, boll, B-O-L-L, is like I don't know is that like a botany word? But it's pronounced the same as bowl, B-O-W-L. So bowl, as well as I think this one, but that other one, B-O-W-L, is much more common because people use that every day. Maybe in the kitchen, you are using a bowl. Ball, bowl. Let's see. What else do we have? I'm going to ask word, world. So let me put that first one in there. Again, both of these words have one syllable. And I think that L is in the middle world. That's where I think, again, you just really have to listen for it. So word. You hear that one syllable, word. Versus world. The RL is a tricky combination because, again, your tongue, when you're saying the R sound, your tongue is in the middle of your mouth, and then you're going to transition a little upward for that L, world. Now, world. I don't think this time, usually the L sound, your tongue is going to touch the top of your mouth. But when you're transitioning, it's very quick. Your tongue is actually not going to hit the top of your mouth when you say world. It's a big world, all right? It's a difficult world. World is a difficult word to pronounce, the word world. Let's see. Andre asked for feature, future. So the first syllable is what's difference between those two words. These are great. Getting a lot of good information about two words that you think are maybe a little difficult to pronounce, and maybe you confuse these. So feature, if we're talking about the adjective, feature, that long E sound, versus future, where you're going to have that, it almost sounds few, like you're pronouncing the letter U. Future. Feature versus future. Feature, future. All right. Linda asked, this is a very, I know it's a difficult word, rural, because you have that R and that L. So it has two syllables, rural. And that second syllable has that schwa sound, rural. All right, rural. Like you might be talking about a rural community, kind of like the countryside, farmlands. Rural. All right, let's see. Wilbert says, please pronounce party. All right, so I would say party. Again, this is another good example of that flap T sound. People from the United States are going to use that flap T sound, and that T is almost going to sound more like a soft D sound. Party. So that's how I would say it. We're going out tonight, and we're not going to have a party. Because again, with everything going on, we need to practice that social distancing, staying at home. But pronouncing this word, many people in British English, you are going to hear that T sound. But many Americans, party. Jatoth asks, how do you pronounce corona? Corona. I think it's a relevant word. It's a word that you hear all the time. Corona. So it has 3 syllables, but the first and the third syllable are going to have that schwa, that sound. All right? So when you hear people talk about it, that the coronavirus, corona is going to be pronounced like this. There's the phonetic spelling. Corona. All right? That first and that third syllable have that schwa sound. Corona. Michelle Leonardo says, could you pronounce torture? Torture. All right, so here is the word that he asked about. I know some of you you might not be following this. That's why I'm writing the words that I am saying, so you can just follow the words. Torture. Oh, whoops, I misspelled it. Sorry. It has an R in there. There it is. So 2 syllables, torture. Mary asked about the word unprecedented. Another word that I think people hear more often, that something never really happens and it's an adjective, and they could say it is unprecedented. So let's see. Spelling it for you. If something is unprecedented, let me write it in here for you so you guys know the word. Right there. Unprecedented. It has 5 syllables, all right? Unprecedented. The stress is going to be on that second syllable, that press. Unprecedented. Unprecedented. All right? Unprecedented. Ruma asked between the P and the B sound, that pair, bear. So again, this is good where it's a great minimal pair, and practicing that PB, that p, b, p, b. One way to practice is that P sound. You're going to have that breath of air. You should be able to feel that p, 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 b. All right. It's a much different. You'll feel a little bit of air with the B sound, but when you say that pair, you should feel the air hitting your hand. Pair, bear. Pair, bear. All right. The B sound should be much softer. Let's see. What else do we have? I'm asking. Let's see. Dreamer asks, metal. Those words, I would say, for me, they're homonyms again because in many people from the United States, that flap T, I'm going to pronounce it more like a D. So it would sound the same. To me, they're synonyms, but in British English, you would hear people pronounce that T, metal. So again, there is the phonetic spelling, but for me, from the United States, I would pronounce them basically the same, metal. All right, so let's see. Said asked about the word manipulate. So this is a verb to manipulate. It has 4 syllables. And the first syllable is going to have that schwa sound, that manipulate. So can you hear where the stress is? Manipulate. It's on that second syllable, that NIP. Manipulate. All right. So again, I think if you guys have any other questions, especially if there's just a single word, the resources that I told you to use, what I've been using right now and kind of going through and finding the phonetic spelling, dictionary.com is a great resource. I also like using Cambridge Dictionary. That's one that I always use if I want to hear the pronunciation or look up the meaning. It gives you both pronunciation from the United States as well as the United Kingdom, or just type in a Google search and just say how to pronounce blah, 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 and you will find the answer, and Google will let you record yourself and then practice saying the word. So again, those are some great resources if you want to practice your pronunciation or hear how things are used. But if you really want to improve, three things, all right? Get more exposure listening to the language, practice shadowing, and actually, I thought there was going to be a third thing. I forgot it. So two things, all right? Listen and practice. Those two things, you will improve your pronunciation. And the more you do that, you're going to improve your overall fluency, because this is important. We need this in order to communicate. So once again, I wanted to let you guys know, if you enjoyed what we do and you guys want to make a connection with us, you can connect with us on Patreon. We offer some cool rewards there, or you become a member on our YouTube channel now and get yourself a membership. This is something else that we have done. There's a link in the description. I'll also throw a link right here in the chat if you guys want to check that out. We offer the same rewards for both, but it helps us do what we do here at Interactive English. And the last thing, another way, I'm throwing all these ways for you guys to connect with us right now. If you haven't joined our email list, again, we send you different updates. We do send you resources from time to time, and that is another way to connect with us, and that is free. So definitely climb onto our email list, and yeah, that is it. Again, thank you guys so much for joining me today. Please, stay healthy, stay safe. I wish you guys all the best. Want to read some comments. Thank you, Saeed, Harshat, Shiban, Aiden, Lali. Thank you guys for being here. Dreamer, Sanatonia, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. All right, there you go. That's how you say that one. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. All right, that's a good way to practice right there. It's not a word that you're going to use. Eloisa, Samuel, Sonu, Mary, Angela, Hani, Gaetari, sorry if I'm mispronouncing names, Shalu, Ahmad, Francesca, Morgiana, Live for India, Ruma, Michelle Leonardo, Shama, Andre. Thank you guys so much for being here. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. Again, stay healthy, stay safe, and I will be back next time for another live lesson. So long.